So you wake up one night, right? In the middle of the night. And all of a sudden, you hear a bang, a knock coming from your door. But no one's there. You just decide to get up, maybe look around, and you don't see anything until you're walking back into your hallway trying to get back to your room, and you see a apparition. Just a dark, extra splotch of blackness in the form of a human. Is there an intruder in your house? You start to think so, but then it just evaporates. Just disappears out of nowhere. And then you start to think, okay, is my house haunted? Today we're going to be taking a look at signs that your house is haunted and different types of hauntings. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi, hello, hi. My name is Ivy, also known as the Witchypreneur here on YouTube. Welcome to my channel, or if you have returned, welcome back. In this channel, we talk all about the magical, the mystical, and the supernatural. And today we're going to be talking about signs that your house is haunted and different types of hauntings. Okay, so you think your house is haunted, but let's say you don't see full-blown apparitions. What are some signs that your house might be haunted? The first is going to be strange sounds. Of course, make sure to investigate that it's not an intruder, and to make sure, and also to investigate that it's not some sort of pipe malfunction that you need to fix the plumber, like pronto. This can be anything from like knocking sounds to footsteps to disembodied voices to hearing doors crack open in the middle of the night. But again, make sure that you do your own research. It doesn't hurt to get a security camera as well. Next is object movement. So I have a sister-in-law who has her own house with my brother, and she had a ghost that really liked to mess with her things. One time she had a pair of gold tube earrings on top of her dresser, and when she turned around and looked back at her earrings, they were completely gone. She already knew that she had a ghost in her house because he likes to mess with the faucet, and he would sometimes open the laundry door, like for the laundry, for the like washer machine. He would open it and close it sometimes. And he would also turn on the faucet in the bathroom, but would never turn it off. And so she turned around again and she said, I know you took the earrings. I'm going to count to 3. Put them back. So she counted 3, 2, 1. And when she turned back around, the earrings were back on her dresser. Also, when my niece was younger and she lived with them, she was in the bathroom washing her face, and the towel was in the towel rack where it's supposed to be. And she knows the towel rack was in where it was supposed to be because she had put it there. After she had washed her face and rinsed it, she turned around and somebody had thrown the towel onto the floor. It was just on the floor. And she freaked out. She was like, whoa, what happened? Object movement like that, like you know you left something somewhere and all of a sudden you can't find it, that is a sign that your house is probably haunted. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a ghost or even a poltergeist. I mean, it can be. If you're Hispanic like me, you believe in something called duendes, and when I can't find something that I know was specifically somewhere, I always blame it on a duende. A duende, if you don't know, is like a little dwarf. They're like gnomes, basically. Yes, I said gnomes. I'm so used to calling it gnomes. I know it's gnomes. They're basically gnomes. And they like to mess with their things. They're little mischievous spirits, little mischievous people. But they like to live in clean homes. And they also like to just take your stuff and just hide it somewhere. They're like little playful children. So that could be a sign that it's a duende too. I personally believe in duendes, and I always blame a duende when I can't find my things. But that's also another sign that your house is haunted. Next is phantom smells. So if you are smelling something that you know isn't there, like for example, you just get hit with a whiff of perfume or a whiff of tobacco when you know that nobody smokes in your house and nobody around you smokes, or if you live in the middle of nowhere, that can often be a sign that your house is probably haunted, and that ghost might have enjoyed a little bit of tobacco or enjoyed that perfume while they were alive. This is usually means that there is a spirit around. My experience with this is whenever I would call on my grandma, or whenever I would feel my grandma's spirit with me, because she is my spirit guide, I would smell roses, or sometimes it would even be another spirit guide that often smelled of roses. And that is a sign that your house can be haunted though. Next sign that your house is haunted is cold spots. Yes, I'm pretty sure you have heard this if you watched paranormal ghost hunting shows, but there's usually cold spots where all of a sudden it feels cold. Even if you watch horror movies, you know that sometimes it just gets really, really chilly, and then that means that there is something supernatural in the room with you. It's believed that ghosts kind of draw energy in order to sort of manifest or cause an act to appear before people's very eyes, and this often also means kind of sucking the warmth out of the room as well. Of course, the most obvious one is going to be seeing an actual apparition. I mean, after that, there's like no denying it, right? Like if you see a full-blown person that just sort of disappears right before your eyes, you can't just like off that. Even the most skeptical person is going to really question about what that was. Like, there's no denying, if you see an apparition, your house is probably haunted, or a ghost could just be possibly passing through. I mean, for example, going back to my whole example with my sister-in-law, she's our neighbor, and this ghost stayed with her for a certain amount of time. They didn't go to the priest or have the house blessed or did any sort of cleansing. It just sort of went away on its own. So that can happen. I mean, we live right by the railroad tracks, so there can be passing ghosts sometimes, and they do sort of pop in now and then, but then they leave. I've had that happen. We've had that happen in my house too. And that can definitely be a traveling ghost, I guess. But that is also definitely a very obvious sign that your house is haunted. Now that we've talked about different signs that your house is haunted, let's talk about the different types of hauntings. The first one that we're going to start with is residual hauntings. So residual hauntings usually happen after something really traumatic happened in the house, like a serial unaliver, or a huge murder, or something that can really scar someone for life, someone that's very traumatic, happens within the home. Negative energy basically collects into the atmosphere, causing some sort of like imprint or like a reprint of the events that happened. So almost like a recording tape, or almost like a DVD or a VHS. It's just gonna sort of replay the same event over and over and over and over and over again, as if it's happening again and again and again. Usually when it's a residual hauntings, the entities that are involved within it don't know about your presence, aren't aware of your presence, because they're so stuck in that traumatic moment that sort of froze their life forever. And they're not going to pay any attention to you, because it's like that moment's just being repeated for them over and over and over again as well. The way that you'll know that this is a residual haunting is, again, if they don't communicate. There's never any communication between that entity and yourself. That being said, though, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a horrible traumatic event for it to cause a residual haunting as well. Sometimes you can hear laughing or singing. A lot of times when you hear hauntings, sometimes you hear children laughing through the hallway, or someone singing or humming. That can also be a residual haunting of a very good moment in time when somebody was living, that sort of left a positive imprint into the atmosphere and basically let out a burst of positive energy, and that's sort of imprinted within the house as well. Okay, next is going to be demonic activity. So demonic activity, that's going to be a lot more darker. Okay, you're going to see like dark mists. You're going to see something horrible, black fog, a black shadow. You can see something that sort of, you can start to hear things, maybe something tempting you to do something bad or sinful or evil. That's all a demonic entity. Like you can trust your intuition to tell you, like, if this feels yucky, this feels gross, this feels very disturbing, then most likely it's going to be a demonic entity. An example that I can tell you with that is going to be the Hat Man and the shadow people. So one night I woke up in the middle of nowhere. I remember it was 2016, and I felt something on me, and I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I opened my eyes and I could only look at my door, and at the door there was this tall black figure with like really long claws and a hat. And I didn't see any red eyes or anything, but I just froze. Like, I could not do anything. And then all of a sudden I snapped out of it, and then the figure just disappeared, and I ran to the bathroom. And when I ran to the bathroom, I heard my daughter crying, and my daughter was a baby at the time. So I ran back into my room and I grabbed her and I put her to bed, and as I was putting her to sleep, I could hear scraping within the closet, like somebody was clawing. And at that point, because my daughter was already like awake and crying, I was not even scared. I was pissed off. And so that is an example of a demonic entity. When it feels gross, when it's holding you down, when it's making you feel horrendous things, that is a darker entity, because it's pure energy. They're pure energetic beings. So you can practically feel all that negative energy radiating off of their bodies. Okay, so the next type of haunting is going to be an intelligent haunting. And this is what we usually call ghosts. Okay, these are spirits. These are people that were flesh and bone once upon a time and have now just crossed over to the other side. There's so many theories as to why there's ghosts. I mean, it can be personally, my experience with spirits is that they're past ones that either need help moving on, or it could be somebody that has stuck by your side because it's your spirit guide. But spirits can also happen when something traumatic happens to them, like a murder that they weren't expecting, something very like just spontaneous that they just were not expecting to pass away from, can cause them to sort of stay stuck in this like spiritual state because they're not aware that they have passed on, or they don't know where to go, they don't know what to do, and they need help crossing over. So when this happens, with an intelligent haunting is that they can communicate with us. This is when you will see apparitions. This is when you can hear noises, or you can make some sort of contact or communication with them. For example, you can dream of them. For example, you can see them, like clear as day. This is when, things are slowly moving around. This is when they can walk around like as if they're still sort of like in our world, but not. And that is an intelligent haunting, when it's not the same thing happening over and over again, but it's something different. They see you, they can clearly see you, they show up at the end of your bed, or they're doing things that aren't like some sort of repeat of a traumatic event. It's not like laughing every single night. It's not you hear a thump at 3 o'clock in the morning every single night. It's something different every single night. This is an intelligent haunting. This is a spirit that is still currently here, but for some reason has just not been able to move forward, has not passed on. That's an intelligent haunting. And that's different than poltergeist activity, which we're going to talk about next. Poltergeist activity is, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen a lot of videos, if you guys go down the same rabbit holes that I do, of like supernatural people, supernatural activity, paranormal activity that people catch on camera, and you see like chairs being thrown across the room, or you see drawers just all open up at the same time. You see a knife literally like jump over. You see a DVD just zoom out from the wall, or zoom out from like the counter that it was on. That is all poltergeist activity. I often hear that poltergeist activity usually happens when there's a teenager because of like all the hormones. I don't know how true that is, but I always hear that. But poltergeist activity is actually really, really rare, even though it's the most intense and terrifying haunting, because literally like they mess up your house. I'd be pissed if I clean my house and then it's constantly being messed up by a ghost. This is usually when people seek out help, and they're usually like, oh, these are demonic entities. This is something negative. Poltergeists don't necessarily mean that it's a demonic entity attacking your home. It can just be a mischievous ghost. honestly a mischievous spirit. It can be a spirit that wants attention. Maybe it's a spirit that needs help crossing over and they need your attention so that you can somehow find help for them to cross over. There's many reasons why there are poltergeists. Doesn't necessarily always mean that it's a demon. But that is it for different signs that your house is haunted, as well as the different types of hauntings. As for getting rid of spirits, I mean, there's so many things like that you can do that I heard you can do. I haven't had any personal experience having to get rid of spirits myself, other than the Hat Man, which I told to leave and eventually he left, but it did take a while. They just, for me, my experiences, they sort of just kind of went away on their own. And also, I want to say increasing your energy. I noticed when I was having a lot of negative paranormal experiences within my house, it was when I was feeling very negative as well. Like I was in a depression, and just negative things were happening all around me. So I just had all this negative energy around me. And I think that's what was attracting these negative beings as well. But I noticed when I started becoming more positive and just really changing my mindset in general, it all just sort of went away. That's what I had to do. Of course, there's different ways. Like if you're religious, you can go to a priest or a pastor. Some people cleanse their home with like sage, or usually that's a closed practice, so I wouldn't recommend using sage, but like rosemary. And there are a lot of other like cleansing tools that you can use to cleanse the energy. Putting selenite sticks on top of your door too, that's something that I do as well. But there's so many different ways of like getting, some people call in mediums, some people call in ghost hunters, so I can't really speak on what to do to get rid of a spirit. I can tell you what I did, which was, again, increase my energy. But people even say if you are a person that is highly intuitive or have a lot of like gifts, you call in these spirits too. So you sort of serve as a beacon to them. So if you're a very intuitive person, be prepared for that. Because I've had that happen to me before where, again, I was in a positive mindset. I was not in a negative mindset or anything like that. But I was having a lot of like intuitive things happening and a lot of like spiritual gifts just sort of popping up. I was really looking into opening up my third eye. And I would wake up, on a nightly basis, and I would see somebody that's not alive at the end of my bed, post-mortem, and it was terrifying. And I couldn't sleep for a while. And I was like, okay, you know what? I don't want this. And then just putting it out there that I didn't want it, I wasn't ready for that, it stopped. So those are just my experiences with them. But of course, if you guys have any suggestions or advice, put that down in the comments below, because there are people that are dealing with this stuff and they want help. So anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you are new here, I would love if you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to be notified when I post. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.